Hi there, this is Zara. You might hear some noises from my dog Matty because she's just not settling down today. So I wanted to continue from my previous video and continue talking about manga recommendations. I'm going to talk about 3 recommendations this video. My first one is Goodbye My Garden Rose. So I started reading this manga after finishing my previous edit from my previous manga recommendations, and I basically read all 3 volumes in one sitting. And I knew immediately basically that I was going to make another video about manga recommendations for this month because I just kind of fell in love with it. In fact, it's easily my number 1 manga in general because I just love it so much. I'd say number 2 would probably be my lesbian experiences with loneliness, but this usually takes number 1. This manga was first published online in 2018. And then was made into 3 volumes, which were then published between 2019 and 2020. The manga focuses on Hanako, who has travelled from Japan to England to meet her favourite novelist, Victor Franks. She keeps harassing this publishing company, who she knows Victor Franks works for, and then while she's there, she meets a noble woman called Alice Douglas, and Alice Douglas basically offers her a position as a maid, while she's still trying to find Franks. When she then becomes a maid, Alice offers Hanako the opportunity to meet Victor Franks, but it's on the condition that Hanako kills her. Obviously, Hanako's shocked at this offer, and the rest of the manga basically explores her learning why Alice wants to kill herself, so it's got connotations of suicide in it. I really love this manga because it's set in the Victorian period, and it has obvious references to the period. Hanako and Alice both share a love of literature, and they discuss Charlotte Bronte and Jane Austen, which is fantastic foreshadowing for later on in the manga and a later revelation. I also personally really love the writings of Bronte and Austen. My favourites are Northanger Abbey, Pride and Prejudice, and Jane Eyre. So I was really pleased that they just had a little bit of a mention in there because they were both independent women that, although they were publishing under their own name originally, they were able to make an income for themselves and live independently, and then eventually they were able to also publish under their own name. They're always very important authors for a woman to read, I feel like, and also the fact that they're classicals as well. So with them being mentioned during the manga was a major bonus for me, and I was like, yeah, Austen's here! And Bronte, and I was like, oh yes, finally! And then I was like, oh, I see the foreshadowing there. Haha! I know what is going to happen here. What really sold me on the manga was when I turned to the last page of volume 1, and I could see there was a cute little note that said that she'd done all the research and they'd been working really hard to make sure that they knew how same-sex relationships were in Japan and England in the time period. And I was like, oh my god, they've done their historical research for once. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my, finally, someone Black Butler needs to look to. I mean, obviously Black Butler's done some research, but they haven't done the best research they could have done. Yeah, no, so I was really happy that they put all of that effort into making it accurate, and they showed that they were really passionate about the project. I also really like, to be honest, that Hanako's a big bookworm. And throughout the manga, she basically regularly visits bookshops. And I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. I was like, I would so be there. And I would hang out with her if we were both together. Oh god, I honestly, she was completely relatable to me because I love going to bookshops when I have the money. It was just she was very relatable to me. You didn't get much of her backstory of when she'd lived in Japan. But I really loved the kind of character they gave her, where even though you hadn't got the full backstory, she was still very relatable, which is very hard to pull off in a manga. Normally I ask for more character development and more backstory to understand the person, but she didn't actually need it because she was so well-rounded already. I felt and also I really liked how curious she was of Alice, and that she basically wanted to investigate Alice and understand why she wanted to kill herself, but she also didn't want to push it too far and make her very uncomfortable. So she didn't ask too many questions. It kind of made it very realistic. Sometimes you did kind of sit there and think, why didn't she ask this question? But it was kind of quite nice, because you didn't always get the answers basically. So you still had to work a bit for it. Alice, in comparison, starts off as like a very big mystery, and then bit by bit her character is slowly revealed, and I was like, it was beautiful. It was a chef's kiss. It was wonderful. They did the characters really good justice, I felt like. I just like how it focused around the two characters and it made them really good. And then there were a couple of side characters, but not too many. Honestly, Black Butler, I feel like, could take a major leaf from this manga, because they have so many characters, but they don't develop any of them really well. They all have their own backstories, but you don't care about their backstory because they quickly die. And they also write well within the Victorian period. Oh my god, Black Butler just needs to read this manga and be like, oh yes, we'll take this bit, we'll take this bit. Yes, and I also really like it how they're both, Hinako and Alice Douglas, are both drawn really accurate. They have outfits that would suit them for the period that they were in, and that would also suit their status and what they did for work. So Hinako wears a maid's outfit, which is completely understandable because she's a maid. And Alice always wears stuff that you'd expect a noblewoman to wear. Hi there. So probably what seems like a couple of seconds to you, it has been a couple of hours for me. Matty kept being irritated while we were trying to film, and I was also just feeling really knackered, so I stopped the recording. It's just really hot today, and I had to wake up at 6 a.m. to take Matty for a walk, because then I needed to go and get the coronavirus jab. So, I just ended up having a sleep for about an hour, and then taking Matty for a second walk of the day, and we had a nice little walk we did, Yeah, we, the gardeners, thank God, they had the sprinklers going, so we stood under the sprinklers for a while. So hot in England. I can't stand the heat. I'm used to cold. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to continue on my review. The next manga I want to review is Failed Princesses. The manga was first published in August 2020 and is still running today. There are currently 3 volumes out, and I've read them all. The manga begins with Nanaki Fujishiro, who is obsessed with being seen as the cutest girl in school, and supposedly has the perfect boyfriend to help with this image. However, she has texted an image of her boyfriend kissing another girl, and it turns out he's basically been cheating on her for the past 6 months. When she confronts him, he dumps her, saying that Nanaki was only his side girl, which was a really dick move. And he then just follows on by insulting her intelligence, which is just a fantastic thing. Quite a few people think you could do that. Understandably, she's very devastated and starts to cry. And this is when Kanade Kurokawa offers her a handkerchief and someone to console in. Previously, Nanaki had always looked down on Kanade for the way she dressed. But when she sees Kanade's designer handkerchief that she gives to her, she realises that Kanade has always wanted to be pretty too. Nanaki then decides to start her quest to help Kanade become as beautiful as possible, as cute as possible. It's too warm with the cap on, hang on. So the relationship of Kanade and Nanaki is really interesting. We see memories of Nanaki being really mean to Kanade, and pushing her out of the limelight so that she can get the attention. In the present, we also see that they become really good friends, to the point where their other friends have trouble adjusting to this and refuse to basically be friends with either of them. And they both come from different friend groups. It's a big change, basically. At first, both their friend groups kind of refuse to be friends with them because they've become friends with each other. And then eventually, slowly, later on into the manga, they do slowly start to kind of work it out. What makes it even worse with Nanaki is that 2 of her friends are actually, they're hinted to basically have crushes on Nanaki herself, and Nanaki's completely oblivious to this, and they want to spend as much time with her as possible. And because Nanaki wants to spend all her time with Kanade, they're just very confused. They're like, oh, we've always been friends, what the heck's happening? One of the people that are interested in Nanaki are pretty okay with her obviously having a crush on Kanade, whereas the other one kind of just isn't okay with it. You've got to be my love, and that's it. At the moment, both Nanaki and Kanade, they're still just realising their feelings for one another, so The first 3 volumes are a really good start to the series. It's a nice foundation to build on. The next manga I want to recommend is Days of Love at Seagull Villa. The manga was first published in 2020 and is still running today. There are currently 2 volumes out, both of which I own. The first volume focuses on Mayumi, whose fiancé cheated on her with her best friend, and now they have a child together. It doesn't seem as devastated that her fiancé cheated on her as her best friend cheated on her with her fiancé. I think it's suggesting that she actually loved her best friend more than her actual fiancé, and that she was marrying her fiancé because she had to, basically. As a result of all of this, Mayumi decides to get away from the city and moves to the countryside, where she meets Rin, her landlady. Rin is currently looking after her niece after her sister and parents all died in a car crash, whilst also restarting her family hotel that hasn't been open since the car crash happened. Mayumi is their first customer, basically. In the second volume, we are introduced to Satoi and Sakura Ashima. Satoi is the half-sister of Sakura and the illegitimate child of their father, after he slept with Satoi's mother, supposedly a prostitute, but I don't think she is actually a prostitute. Her stepmother always calls her a prostitute. I feel like she might not actually be a prostitute, and she might have actually just been a mistress or something, because basically Satoi has been poisoned against any good ideas by her stepmother, because she's just a horrible bitch. Satoi and Sakura are the same age, and Sakura's mother only finds out about the affair after Satoi's mother dies at 5 years old. Satoi's basically forced to move in with them because she has nowhere else to live. We don't actually see Satoi's and Sakura's father throughout the thing. It's just kind of mostly focused on Satoi's stepmother and Sakura's mother. Sakura's mother seems to hate Satoi with a burning passion and tends to blame her for stuff that go wrong. In comparison, she loves Sakura very much and is shown to encourage her academically, gives her piano lessons, and there's lots of different other lessons she gets just to help her. And she also hopes that she's going to get into a very good high school, whereas Satoi she doesn't really care about, and she's like, well, you're not going to go into a high school, you're going to fail everything in life, your mother's a prostitute, I hate you. Yeah, so it's a lovely, loving environment she lives in, basically. The negative environment at home leads to Satoi often going over to Rin's to read and get away from her stepmother, although the appearance of Mayumi briefly stops her from visiting, because Mayumi actually is her teacher and she doesn't really like her, and Satoi is just generally doesn't like new people. She's like, oh god, they're going to be horrible to me, they're going to be awful, just like my stepmother is to me. And yeah, so you can see how she's built up this thing of not liking new people, especially if they come into the place where she feels safe. Mayumi purposely tries to make sure she's friends with Satoi so that she can still feel comfortable when she's at Rin's. At the end of the second volume, Satoi is actually given permission to permanently live at Rin's. I thought it was a really good ending to the volume because she was living in such toxic environment before that it's really nice that she's actually getting somewhere where she's more comfortable. It's just really upsetting when I was reading about her living in this place that she hates, and it just reminded me of stuff that happened to me when I was younger. I will warn you, there are references to suicide in this manga. There's several misunderstandings where one character thinks another character is about to drown themselves, and they're not actually going to drown themselves, they're just looking at the water, or they're just plodding in the water. It's really strange. I think, though, there is a suggestion, particularly with Satoi, that she is very self-destructive and she might actually be suicidal. So just be pre-warned about that. I'd also warn you there's an incestuous relationship between Satoi and Sakura. There's a scene where they're caught kissing, and they end up at the headmaster's office. But the weird thing is, they're like, oh my god, 2 girls kissing, how dare you? And they just completely jump over the bit where they're half sisters. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, shouldn't we be talking about the incestuous relationship here and not the 2 females? I don't understand. It just did not make any sense. I was sat there, I was like, you realise they're related, right? I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, but no, it's overall quite a good manga. I really enjoy it. I'm not too keen on the incestuous relationship. Anyway, this is the end of video 2 of the recommendations. I'm gonna do the final recommendation in the next video. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.